Doy ahora la palabra a la señora Izumi Nakamitsu.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, distinguished members of the Security Council, ladies and gentlemen, allow me first of all to express my sincere gratitude to Ecuador for convening this very important meeting and for giving me the opportunity to brief on the Secretary General's biennial report on small arms and light weapons, which was released last month. I applaud the Security Council's commitment to address the issue of small arms and light weapons on a regular basis. The biennial consideration of small arms began more than 15 years ago with a 2007 presidential statement. Since then, the Council has continued to recognize that the illicit transfer, destabilized accumulation, and misuse of small arms and light weapons constitute a threat to international peace and security. Small arms and light weapons are the weapons of choice in initiating, sustaining, and exacerbating conflict, armed violence, terrorism, and other forms of organized crime. Their misuse facilitates human rights violations and gender-based violence. According to the latest figure in 2021 alone, 260,000 people were killed by small arms and amounting to 45% of all violent deaths. This is more than 700 people a day, or one person dying from small arms every 2 minutes. In view of the gravity of the issue, the Security Council requested the Secretary General to report on small arms on a biennial basis beginning in 2008. Since this request, there have been 8 reports of the Secretary General on this topic. Let me highlight a few points from his most recent report contained in document S/2023/823, which provides an overview of significant trends and developments over the last 2 years. In it, the Secretary General laments the deteriorating security environment, the escalation of armed conflict, and the related surge in civilian casualties. In addition, we have seen a continued rise in global military expenditure and the cost of small arms and light weapons for peace, security, and sustainable development. Notably, in his policy brief on the new agenda for peace, the Secretary General not only identified arms regulation and control measures as critical for preventing conflict and violence and sustaining peace, but also called for actions to reduce the human cost of weapons, including through greater control of small arms and light weapons and ammunition. Considerable efforts have been undertaken at the global, regional, sub-regional, and national levels in support of small arms and light weapons control. These include work in the framework of the Programme of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons and its international tracing instrument, the Firearms Protocol, to the Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, and the Arms Trade Treaty. The United Nations continues to advocate for the universalization of and compliance with relevant legally binding arms control instruments, and for the full and effective implementation of political instruments. Let me take this opportunity to highlight the successful adoption of the new global framework for through-life conventional ammunition management, a remarkable achievement by member states to reduce the risks of illicit trafficking and diversion of conventional ammunition, as well as to prevent and mitigate unplanned explosions at munitions sites. While existing regulatory frameworks have enabled great strides, implementation continues to be uneven, and challenges persist. In his new agenda for peace, the Secretary General has put forward 3 recommendations to advance comprehensive approaches for small arms and light weapons control, which the Security Council could consider in addressing the threat posed by their diversion, illicit trafficking and misuse. First, the development and strengthening of national and regional instruments and action plans to address challenges related to diversion, proliferation, and misuse. Global commitments must be translated into tailored action at the national and regional levels. I welcome the progress made in developing and implementing regional and sub-regional policy frameworks and strategies on small arms and light weapons, among them the ones in the Western Balkans, in the Caribbean, as well as the one currently being developed in Central America. These mechanisms reflect the unique realities, priorities, challenges, and ownership of each region, while continuing to reinforce and enhance coordination in the area of small arms and light weapons control. Second, the setting of voluntary national and regional targets and measuring progress through data collection and monitoring. Good practices and lessons learned from successful regional initiatives demonstrate the importance of robust monitoring and evaluation frameworks to measure progress in implementation and to inform further programming and policymaking. At the national level, voluntary target setting promotes the development of nationally owned and led approaches based on a state's needs, capacities, and priorities. And third is the pursuit of whole-of-government approaches that integrate small arms and light weapons control into development, prevention, and peace-building initiatives. Linkages between arms control, peace, and development have been long recognized, including through Goal 16 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Adequate small arms control is a critical means of reducing armed violence, preventing conflict, and building peaceful and inclusive societies, without which sustainable development cannot happen. At the same time, sustainable development can help reduce the demands for small arms by addressing the inequalities and enabling factors that perpetuate their illicit trafficking. This integration of small arms and light weapons considerations into development efforts also requires comprehensive and multidisciplinary approaches for the control of small arms, while also addressing the political, socio-economic, and cultural drivers of supply and demand for these weapons. The United Nations has established the Saving Lives Entity, or SALIENT, a global funding facility within the Peacebuilding Fund, which continues to support UN country teams in beneficiary countries through such transformative and comprehensive programs on small arms and light weapons control and armed violence reduction. Madam President, distinguished members of the Security Council, ladies and gentlemen, due to the cross-cutting and multidimensional impact of small arms and light weapons, the Secretary General has consistently encouraged the Security Council to consider small arms and light weapons and their ammunition in the context of country-specific and thematic agenda items and discussions. This includes addressing small arms and light weapons as they relate to the protection of civilians, human rights, women, peace and security, children and armed conflict, disarmament, demobilization and reintegration, as well as linkages to transnational organized crime and terrorism. On the latter, the Secretary General, in his reports to the Council, has repeatedly underscored the challenges of arms acquisition by non-state actors, including transnational organized criminal groups and, of course, terrorist groups. He has encouraged further consideration by the Council of the nexus between terrorism, organized crime, and small arms and light weapons as interrelated and multifaceted security threats that require complementary approaches and responses. Small arms control measures have proven themselves to be effective tools to disrupt the supply of illicit small arms and light weapons to terrorist and criminal groups. Such measures include robust transfer controls border security strategies, safe and secure stockpile management, comprehensive marking, tracing, and record keeping, the collection and analysis of data on diversion, as well as investigations and prosecutions of firearms trafficking offenses. Thematic discussions on the women, peace, and security agenda are also important opportunities to consider the connection and intersections with small arms-related issues within the framework of the Security Council's agenda. The Council has paid increasing attention to the gendered aspects of small arms and light weapons control, including the full and effective participation of women in arms control policy and practice, as well as the differentiated impacts of illicit arms on women, men, girls, and boys. Of particular concern to international peace and security is the role played by the proliferation and illicit circulation of small arms in facilitating and perpetrating gender-based violence, including conflict-related sexual violence. I would like to underscore the need for the collection and analysis of gender and age disaggregated data on the impact of small arms and light weapons. This forms the basis for the development of evidence-based prevention and protection strategies and for gender-responsive policymaking and programming on small arms and light weapons. Accordingly, the Security Council is encouraged to mandate United Nations entities to systematically collect such data, including when recording casualties and monitoring incidents of conflict-related sexual violence. Small arms and light weapons control efforts play a crucial role in advancing the women, peace, and security agenda. We need to further strengthen these linkages, including by greater harmonization between national strategies and action plans for implementing the women, peace, and security agenda, and those regulating small arms and light weapons, as well as greater coordination and exchanges between national and regional WPS focal points and small arms control focal points. More needs to be done to foster women's full and meaningful participation in arms control at the international, regional, and national levels. I note the Secretary General's recommendation to identify good practices through a report on gender equality in national, regional, and international institutions and organizations working on conventional arms control and disarmament. Madam President, distinguished members of the Security Council, ladies and gentlemen, the Security Council has considered the negative impacts of small arms and light weapons in relevant country and regional contexts that are experiencing armed conflict and high levels of armed violence. I commend the Council's increasing consideration of the issue of small arms, including the integration of weapon-related provisions into its resolutions on Afghanistan, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Haiti, Libya, Mali, Somalia, South Sudan, and Sudan and Yemen. Weapons and ammunition management also continues to be integrated into the work and mandates of peace operations. To adequately address challenges related to small arms and light weapons in peace operation context, the Security Council is encouraged to ensure that missions are consistently and appropriately mandated to assist states in the effective, safe, and secure management of weapons and ammunition. It is likewise crucial that peace operations do not inadvertently contribute to risks of diversion and unplanned explosions at a munitions site. I welcome the continued work to strengthen weapons and ammunition management by troop and police contributing countries. Concerted and coordinated efforts are needed by these countries and field missions to effectively implement relevant policies and international guidelines and to ensure the safety, accountability, and security of their weapons and ammunition. I encourage the Security Council to also incorporate weapons and ammunition considerations in its work on the protection of civilians and conflict prevention. When mandating United Nations peace operations, the Security Council could assess the potential contribution of conventional arms control and integrate related mandates into protection of civilians' efforts. Integrating arms-related risks in conflict analysis and protection risks assessments allow identifying and addressing arms-related threats, including as part of conflict prevention, management, and resolution efforts. The collection and analysis of arms-related information as part of civilian casualty recording and human rights monitoring is also an important practical step to address concerns related to conventional weapons and ammunition. The illicit flows of arms and ammunition in violation of arms embargoes, which remain a matter of grave concern. I welcome the action taken by the Council through adoption of Resolution 2616 on combating the illicit transfer, destabilizing accumulation, and diversion of arms and related materials in violations of arms embargoes, which has been crucial in addressing this serious threat to international peace and security. However, illicit arms trafficking and diversion in violation of Security Council mandated arms embargoes continue to be documented. This demonstrates the ongoing need to improve national and regional implementation and enforcement of arms embargoes. At the same time, panels of experts across many arms embargo regimes continue to face challenges in identifying the origin and supply chain of seized weapons and ammunition. In his report, the Secretary General offers a number of recommendations on this matter that can be considered by the Security Council. In particular, the Council is encouraged to continue to seek reports from member states on the steps that they have taken to implement arms embargoes and on their efforts to cooperate and share information with the panels of experts. Madam President, distinguished members of the Security Council, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude my briefing by stressing the need to fully integrate small arms and light weapons considerations throughout the Security Council's work. Whether addressing geographic context or thematic issues, the widespread availability and illicit proliferation of these weapons and their associated ammunition serve as key drivers and enablers of conflict, terrorism, violence, and crisis. To effectively address threats to international peace and security, it is imperative that small arms and light weapons be consistently and comprehensively considered. This involves not only strict control over their supply, but also addressing the underlying factors that contribute to their demand. I thank you very much for your attention.
Agradezco a la señora Nakamitsu por la información que ha proporcionado.